Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Tired Mama Tries to Read. So I've actually read a few books because I've been doing the one at a time thing and it's really worked. So if any of you guys have been going through reading slumps, which I've seen a lot of other booktubers have been going through, so I don't know if you feel the same as readers, then I feel like this might be the way to go. I've said it loads of times that I'm not a multi-reader, but when you get caught up in things like readathons or buddy reads, it's so hard to just read one at a time, especially with a buddy read. I find it's really hard to just read the buddy read because somebody, usually other booktubers who are often who you're doing it with, are going at a, not a slow pace, but they're going at a certain pace in order that everybody can keep up. And then I find myself sort of sitting there thinking, well, I want to read loads tonight. So yeah, I don't know if buddy reads are ever going to work for me. I'm starting to question the whole thing now, but I'll dive into the books I've read, and yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later. So the first one I finished was Period Power by Maisie Hill. I had a few comments last time when I mentioned this that people wondered if it was a book about how to get pregnant. They'd heard that on other channels. It's not. It's a book that's suitable for well, it's actually a wider range than you would think. So she makes a special effort to include menopausal women and postmenopausal women in this. There are whole sections in here on the lunar cycle and how you might want to use the lunar cycle to almost mimic the cycle that you would have with your period. And there's lots of reasons why a woman might want to do that. One of the reasons that she gives is that women sometimes feel a bit lost at sea without a cycle, that even though they're really pleased that they don't have to go through some of the more annoying aspects of being a woman, that they also miss that cyclical way of organizing their calendar. And that's a lot of what she focuses on with the rest of the book, is the way to make those 28 days, and obviously they're not always going to be 28 days, but the way to make that 28 days work for you. So in the first not the first 2 weeks, but in the second and third week, which she calls your spring and your summer, she has all these tips on the ways in which your body might want to head, the way it's going to be full of energy, the way you're going to be planning things, you're going to maybe be more sociable, and the way that sometimes women make the mistake in those weeks of feeling quite energy driven to plot things for their autumn and winter, which is the fourth week and the first week of the cycle. And so I totally related to that, this idea of sometimes just feeling just so tired and having moods and emotions that I didn't, I don't really know where they've come from. And of course, all we kind of really ever hear about periods is PMT, and we think of it as being this one little time of the month, but she's showing you how your hormones are just affecting you in so many ways. So she talks about using the lunar cycle for people who are not having a cycle, whether it be because they have they've had a hysterectomy, they have a medical condition, maybe they are on the pill so they're not getting the same sort of cycle, maybe they're postmenopausal. She also really makes an effort to include trans women. And then when it comes to bleeding, she makes an effort to include trans men. So I found that just so refreshing. There's also a really great 4-page diatribe against the medical experimentation on the bodies of black women. I think she calls it something like, is it anger is healing? Or she basically says it's your right as a woman to be angry when your body is being used by society, or assumptions are being made about you because you're female. And then she obviously felt, it almost felt a little bit shoehorned in, but good God, I was glad she shoehorned it in. Yeah, she called it anger is energy. Yeah, so she talks about feeling frustrated, angry and upset in the autumn phase, and then she goes straight into the fact that Black, Indigenous and people of colour have experienced well, where does she do? I want to read the line to you because it just sounds so. There we go. Behind the stereotype of the angry premenstrual woman is the weight of these structural oppressions, which we must acknowledge fall far more heavily on the shoulders of Black, Indigenous women of colour. The anger of women is real and exists for very good reasons. Love it. Really loved it. Just feel like everybody should read it, really. And I feel like my lack of progesterone, which I always knew from my own experiences but never actually had a GP say. I had lots of hormone tests when I was trying to conceive, sort of, well, how long ago was that, 5 or 6 years ago. Nobody ever said that I was low in progesterone, but I knew from the way my body was presenting itself that I was. And I think she discusses in this quite well how, so often now women are having one test for something and then like, oh, that's it, so you're fine. And she says, women who are estrogen dominant are often told that they're not because their estrogen levels come out as normal, but in comparison to their progesterone levels, they are estrogen dominant. So little things like that. I am a full believer in self-diagnosis because I've just had, unfortunately, and I don't really blame them because their work is cut out for them, but I've had so little help from medical professionals when it comes to anything I've ever had wrong with me, that I feel very sad for people who find it difficult to navigate the internet, because when you do start to self-diagnose, wow, there's a lot out there that is frightening, and it's really difficult to sort out the wheat from the chaff when it comes to stuff like that. So I think books are the way to go because the internet is just so unruly. But if you've got a book, you've got references, you've usually got a professional who's writing it. So yeah, get the book. Then I read School of Life, an emotional education by Alanda Botton. Was introduced by Alanda Botton, and there are apparently loads of writers that contribute to this, but it doesn't actually tell you in any of the sections who wrote what, so I don't know how they did it. It's full of really, really great pictures that are either of paintings that were used for psychological studies, or they are works of art that kind of illustrate the cultural aspect that he brings to the book. It's separated into bits: self, others, relationships, work, culture. I enjoyed the first part, self, and I enjoyed the last part, culture, but I have to say the rest of it, this was the book that would have got put on a shelf or the side of the sofa, then one of the dogs would have knocked it down the back of the sofa, I would have forgotten about it, and then probably found it 6 months later. I don't think it was the book's fault. It's written kind of for a layman's perspective, which is great, and in some aspects I was a layman, but if you've read any kind of philosophy or other psychology books, then some of it was a bit, you kind of know that already. And I'm also quite, would not saying I'm always right, but I like to think of myself as quite an emotionally intuitive person, so I'm not necessarily going to need to be told how to be with other people. I'm always learning. I'm not saying I get it right, but ultimately I know what I should be like. It doesn't always actually come out that way. So I kind of feel like this would be good for somebody, if there's someone in your life who's not very good at that side of things, maybe a special someone who doesn't really know how to behave in a relationship. This might be a good gift for them for Christmas, if not an unsubtle gift. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Chris Evans, who's like the biggest radio DJ in the UK, at least money wise, he said he's read this 3 times and he just can't get over it. And I'm really surprised, because despite the fact that I don't always agree with Chris Evans, he does read a lot of books on how to sort of live your life better. And I was surprised that, having read all those books, he still wanted to read this one 3 times. I don't know, but it kept my attention to a degree. And that bit about culture at the end is really interesting, so maybe more on that. Then I read Anna James's second instalment of Pages & Co., which is called Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales. Anybody who watches my channel will know I don't tend to read even YA books, but especially not middle grade. It's just not really my thing. But the first book of this is just as beautiful. It's red and it's just lovely. And I kind of thought, try and sort of rediscover your childhood, because it's the sort of thing I would have loved. And I did love it. And this book is really good as well. So there's all sorts. The way Anna James writes is brilliant. She doesn't sort of pander to you. One of the words, there's words in here like obfuscation, which you don't even hear in adult books. It's not explained. One of the characters uses it. There's quite a couple, that's the best example, but there are a couple more examples of really quite difficult words being used in a children's book, which I liked. And one of the characters, which you don't actually meet thinking about it now, but one of the characters that I'm assuming we'll meet in the future, her bedroom has posters of Simone de Beauvoir in it. I know. There's kind of an inference that some of the characters are gay, which I like. yeah, I feel like it's really inclusive. So Anna James she was a school librarian, and then she worked for the Bookseller. That's how I know her. Bookseller magazine, which is in the UK, it's the magazine that all the bookshops in the UK subscribe to, and it has all sorts of news and future releases and stuff. She looks impossibly young and beautiful. She's got beautiful red curly hair. And if this book is anything to go by, she's a really nice person. This book is really cool. It's got loads of illustrations as you read. I would imagine if you're dyslexic, it would be very difficult to read because some of the images are behind the type. So I don't know if that's the case, but I found some of the bits with the snowflakes behind a bit difficult. Just FYI, if you're going to get it for a child and they are dyslexic. Inside, look how pretty. There's Jack and the Beanstalk. And we've got the big bad wolf. And the smell from this book is just, it's like A grade book smell. So really, I just can't praise that enough, to be honest. Okay, now I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough time to mention a couple of new books I've got, but I think I do. So I'm going to do it. I went into a bookshop, as you do, and I got a bit carried away. I've been trying not to buy any new books. I haven't got anything off the internet for myself this month. I know. And I got paid a few days ago, and I haven't done it for the coming month either yet. And usually it takes about 3 days for a giant box to arrive. So I feel impressed. But I did go into Waterstones, and I bought these at full price, and I don't even care. So I got Daily Rituals, Women at Work by Mason Curry. I reviewed not long ago Daily Rituals, which was his book, the first book, which was meant to be about artists, writers, composers, and all of their little rituals that they did to create their art. And I loved it. It was such an escapist piece of work, and you could just dive in. The sections are really small, and there's pictures of some of the writers' rooms, which is really nice. But what I love about this is that Mr. Curry, or Curry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, has an apology at the beginning of this one. And I don't want to sort of give him an award for good boys, if you know, you know. But I do feel like he is genuinely apologising, and I kind of feel he deserves a bit of kudos for this. So he says, you know, that he wrote Daily Rituals, How Great Minds Make Time, Find Inspiration and Get to Work back in 2013, and that he loved that book and he was very proud of it. But it had one major flaw. Of the 161 figures I included, only 27 were women. Less than 17%. How could I have let the book go to press with such a glaring gender imbalance? I don't have a great answer. That I didn't work harder to find more women's stories to tell shows a dismal lack of imagination on my part, and that is something I sincerely regret. I feel like a bravo is in order. So this is the corrective. This is Women at Work, and I'm very excited to read it. I was going to wait for it to come out in paperback. It's probably out in paperback next week, but I've seen it in the bookshop, and in the Carmarthen branch so many times, and I just thought, sod it, I'm just going to get it. It's so pretty. So yeah, I will let you know. Then I got a really, really nice little book from a dear colleague who I work with, Linda. Thank you, Linda. She left this on my desk. 10 poems about sheds. And this is Candlestick Press, who do loads of these. These are called A Book as a Card. So if you look on their website, there's loads of different ones on every topic you can probably think of. I think there's ones on bees, there's ones on gardening, there's probably one on wine. And it's just a collection usually of about a dozen or so poems about that topic. And they're just really nice. And they've got an envelope so you can post them instead of a card. So thank you for that. And then I also got a really, really lovely gift through the post. This actually came as part of a care package from long-time commenter and now special friend, Petra. So I'm really, really excited to start this. This is Robert Menas the Capital, and I've never seen this over here. So I don't know if this is something that, it's Quercus, winner with the German Book Prize. So it's translated, but I've never seen it here. I think it's a tale of Europe. Did we ever have a more apt time to read a tale of Europe? Oh. we've been talking about this in our messages, and it's just, at the minute, the UK is just such a, I mean, the US probably is the same, but this is just one of the most depressing political times that I never thought I'd see anything as depressing as it is now. I mean, our parliament's back in, so that's something, but we're just being governed by an imbecile, and I just have no words to express how it got to this. Like, I just can't even imagine a world where Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are the leaders of two of the most important countries in the West. I mean, never was there a better time to read Tilly and the Book Wanderers as well. That's all I can say. So yeah, I'm going to buddy read this we're hoping November, did we say? I can't remember now. But yeah, it was so lovely. I got loads of other things in that package as well, like teas and postcards and a teddy bear. So yeah, very, very lucky. I feel bad if I say that I'm not having a great mental health time now, because I get all these little treats, and a part of me is thinking of just rolling with it and just, you know, getting as many care packages out of you guys as I possibly can. Anyway, and the last thing I was going to say, I'm looking at the clock because this has gone on, but I also got Milkman by Anna Burns. Now, you guys know that I read this last year and it was my book of 2018, but look at this swish thing. So this is the Liberty edition. So Liberty in London are fabric makers, and they are amazing. And this is the collaboration between Liberty and Faber, which I can't think of a more amazing collaboration. So it's loads of little houses, little greenhouses, and I just had to get it. So it kind of made me think how beautiful this was, that maybe now was the time to do a giveaway. I've never done one before. It's really lazy. I should have done when I've reached 1,000 followers, really, shouldn't I? So if you are interested in having a copy of this for Christmas, then please, I'm not going to say number yourselves because that's going to get really confusing. Just say yes underneath that you would like a copy, and I will quite literally be putting all your names into a hat because I don't know how to do it any other way. And depending on where in the world you are, I will try and post it. I will try and buy it new and post it from a post office. But if you live very, very far away, there is a chance that I might cheat and use the dreaded Amazon. It'll still be a new copy, but a little bit of my morality will disappear down the plug hole with it. But it's just, yeah, I really want one of you to have this, so it's worth it. You gotta have a middle ground. I didn't make Amazon what it was. I can't be responsible for the whole of what they do. So yeah, if you want a copy of this so that we can both be super swish and happy with our Liberty covers, then let me know. Okay, I have gone on for too long, so I'm going to go now. I'm going to go film my Victober TBR. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I will see you soon. Bye.